Let's start by painting a picture of the world where our story takes place. Imagine a big city filled with tall buildings, busy streets, and lots of people rushing around. Cars honk their horns, buses rumble down the road, and shops are open late into the night. It's noisy, crowded, and full of energy. This is where our story begins. In this city lives a woman named Evelyn Carter. To most people who pass her on the street, she looks like any other blind person. She wears dark sunglasses and carries a white cane to help her walk safely. Her steps are slow and careful as she taps her cane against the ground to feel for obstacles ahead. People might glance at her briefly but quickly look away. They don't think much about her because she seems so ordinary. But here's the secret: no one knows Evelyn is far from ordinary. Beneath her calm and quiet appearance lies a brilliant mind. Years ago, she worked as a counterintelligence expert. That means she helped catch bad guys who tried to spy on her country or cause harm. She was really good at her job, so good that even top criminals couldn't outsmart her. But something happened during one mission that changed everything. Now, Evelyn chooses to live quietly, blending into society like everyone else. Even though she doesn't work as a spy anymore, Evelyn hasn't forgotten her skills. She still notices things others miss. For example, when someone walks behind her, she can tell exactly how many steps they take. If a car drives too close, she hears its engine and knows what kind of vehicle it is. And if someone speaks rudely to her, she remembers every word they say. These little details make Evelyn special, even if no one realizes it. Now, imagine walking through this busy city yourself. Think about all the sights, sounds, and smells around you. What would it be like to experience this world without being able to see? Would you feel scared or brave? How would you handle challenges? These are questions Evelyn faces every single day. But instead of letting her blindness hold her back, she uses it to her advantage. After all, sometimes not seeing can give you a clearer view of what truly matters. To understand Evelyn better, let's talk about her life before she became blind. When she was younger, she dreamed of helping people and making the world safer. She joined a team of spies and investigators who worked together to stop dangerous criminals. These weren't just regular thieves or troublemakers, they were smart, sneaky, and always trying to stay one step ahead. Evelyn loved solving puzzles and figuring out how these criminals thought. She studied their patterns, listened to their conversations, and pieced together clues until she caught them red-handed. One day, however, things went terribly wrong. During an important mission, Evelyn got hurt. An explosion caused her to lose her sight completely. At first, she felt lost and angry. How could she keep doing her job if she couldn't see? Slowly, though, she learned new ways to adapt. Instead of relying on her eyes, she started trusting her ears, nose, and sense of touch more than ever before. Over time, she discovered that losing her sight actually made her stronger in some ways. She paid closer attention to tiny details that others overlooked. Despite her incredible abilities, Evelyn decided to leave her old life behind. Being a spy had been exciting, but it was also dangerous. She wanted peace and quiet now. So, she moved to the big city we talked about earlier and began living as an ordinary citizen. She didn't tell anyone about her past, not her neighbors, not her friends, not even the shopkeepers she visited regularly. To them, she was simply the blind woman who lived nearby. But deep down, Evelyn knew she hadn't forgotten her training. Every morning, she practiced listening carefully to the sounds around her. She memorized the layout of her neighborhood so well that she could navigate it effortlessly. She even kept a few gadgets from her spy days hidden in her apartment, just in case she ever needed them again. Little did she know, those gadgets would come in handy sooner than expected. While Evelyn enjoyed her peaceful life, not everyone in the city shared her kindness. In fact, there were groups of people who caused trouble wherever they went. One such group was called the Iron Vipers. They were a gang of bikers known for breaking rules and scaring innocent people. Their leader, Jake Razor Malone, loved showing off his power. He rode a loud motorcycle with flames painted on the sides, and he wore leather jackets covered in patches that showed how tough he thought he was. The Iron Vipers spent their nights hanging out near a rowdy bar on the edge of town. They drank beer, laughed loudly, and intimidated anyone who dared cross their path. Sometimes, they picked fights with strangers just for fun. Other times, they stole money or belongings from people who couldn't fight back. No one stood up to them because they were too afraid of getting hurt. One evening, as Evelyn walked home from the grocery store, she found herself passing by the bar where the Iron Vipers liked to gather. The noise hit her immediately: the roar of motorcycles, the clinking of bottles, and the sound of men shouting insults at each other. Normally, Evelyn avoided places like this. But tonight, she had no choice. Her usual route was blocked due to construction, forcing her to take a detour. As she approached the corner, she heard the bikers grow louder. Someone revved an engine nearby, making the ground shake beneath her feet. Another voice shouted, "Hey, check it out. Looks like we've got company." Evelyn stopped walking and gripped her cane tightly. She didn't need to see the bikers to know they were looking at her. She could feel their stares like heavy weights pressing down on her shoulders. For a moment, she considered turning back. But then she reminded herself of something important: fear only gave bullies more power. If she acted scared, they'd think they'd won. So, she took a deep breath and continued forward, pretending not to notice them. Inside, however, her mind raced. Who were these men? What did they want? And why did they seem so eager to cause trouble? Little did Evelyn know, this encounter would change everything for her and for the Iron Vipers. Before we move on to the next part of the story, let's pause for a moment and ask ourselves a question: have you ever met someone who seemed weak or helpless at first glance, only to discover later that they were incredibly strong or talented? Maybe it was a classmate who struggled with math but turned out to be amazing at art. Or perhaps it was a family member who appeared shy but surprised everyone with their courage during a tough situation. This happens all the time in real life, and it's happening right now in our story. Evelyn may look vulnerable to the Iron Vipers, but we already know she's anything but. Her calm demeanor hides years of training, quick thinking, and determination. And soon enough, the bikers will learn just how wrong they were to underestimate her. So, here's my challenge to you, dear viewer: as we continue this tale, pay close attention to the small details. Notice how Evelyn reacts to danger. Watch how she uses her surroundings to her advantage. Most importantly, remember that appearances can be deceiving. Because sometimes, the quietest person in the room holds the most power, and those who judge by looks alone are the ones who never see it coming. Are you ready to find out what happens next? Let's dive deeper into the story and uncover the truth about Evelyn Carter. Let's take a closer look at the Iron Vipers, the group of bikers who are about to cause trouble for Evelyn. These men aren't just loud, they're mean. They enjoy making people feel small and scared. Their leader, Jake Razor Malone, is especially cruel. He loves showing off his power and doesn't care who gets hurt in the process. Razor isn't very tall, but he acts like he's 10 feet tall. His leather jacket has patches sewn onto it that say things like "Iron Viper Leader" and "No Fear." He rides a shiny black motorcycle with red flames painted on the sides. When he revs the engine, it sounds like a lion roaring. Everyone knows Razor by sight, and everyone tries to stay out of his way. The other members of the gang are just as bad. There's Spike, a skinny guy with tattoos all over his arms. Then there's Tank, a huge man with muscles so big they look like balloons under his shirt. And finally, there's Rat, a wiry fellow who always seems to be sneaking around. Together, these four make up the core of the Iron Vipers. They think they own the streets and that no one can stop them. On this particular night, the gang is hanging out near their favorite bar. The air smells like gasoline and cigarette smoke. Empty beer bottles litter the ground, and loud music blasts from inside the building. The bikers laugh and shout insults at each other, trying to prove who's the toughest. It's clear they don't respect anyone, not even each other. As Evelyn walks past, the noise grows louder. One of the bikers spots her first. "Hey, check it out," he yells, pointing at her. "Looks like we've got a blind lady walking through our territory." The others turn to look, and soon they're all laughing. To them, Evelyn is an easy target. She's alone, she's blind, and she doesn't seem strong enough to fight back. What could possibly go wrong? But what the bikers don't realize is that Evelyn isn't afraid of them. In fact, she's already sizing them up. Even though she can't see their faces, she listens carefully to their voices and footsteps. She notes how close they are standing to her and how many of them there are. All of this information helps her figure out what to do next. Evelyn keeps walking, pretending not to hear the bikers' laughter. But inside, her mind is working fast. She knows exactly where she is and how far she needs to go before reaching a safer part of town. Still, she can't ignore the danger closing in around her. Suddenly, Razor steps forward. His heavy boots crunch against the gravel as he moves closer to Evelyn. "Hold up, lady," he says, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "What's wrong? Can't find your way home?" The other bikers chuckle, egging him on. Evelyn stops walking and turns her head slightly toward the sound of Razor's voice. Her sunglasses hide her eyes, but her expression remains calm. "Excuse me," she says politely. "I'm just trying to get to my apartment. Could you please let me pass?" Instead of answering, Razor leans down until his face is inches away from hers. "Oh, I'm sorry," he mocks, pretending to sound sweet. "Did I scare you?" "Don't worry, sweetheart, we'll help you cross the street." His words might sound nice, but his tone makes it clear he's up to no good. Evelyn feels her heart beat faster, but she doesn't show any fear. Instead, she takes a small step backward, keeping her cane steady in front of her. "Thank you," she replies coolly, "but I don't need your help." This only makes Razor angrier. He hates being told no, especially by someone he thinks is weaker than him. With a growl, he grabs Evelyn's cane and pulls it out of her hand. Without it, she has no way to feel for obstacles ahead. For most people, this would be terrifying, but not for Evelyn. She's trained herself to stay calm in situations like this. "You shouldn't have done that," she says quietly, her voice firm. Razor smirks, thinking she's bluffing. "Or what?" he challenges. "What are you gonna do, huh? Scream for help? Nobody's gonna listen to a blind woman." Behind him, the other bikers cheer him on. Spike picks up Evelyn's grocery bag and dumps its contents onto the ground. Apples roll across the pavement, and a loaf of bread lands in a puddle of dirty water. Tank kicks her cane farther away, laughing as it clatters against a nearby wall. Rat circles her like a vulture, waiting to see what will happen next. Despite the chaos, Evelyn stands perfectly still. She doesn't beg or cry. Instead, she memorizes every detail: the sound of each biker's voice, the smell of their cologne, the rhythm of their footsteps. All of this information will come in handy later. For now, though, she plays the role of a helpless victim, letting the bikers believe they've won. As the harassment continues, the tension grows thicker. The crowd nearby watches silently, too afraid to intervene. Some people shake their heads in disapproval, while others quickly look away. No one wants to risk angering the Iron Vipers. After all, these bikers are known for their violence, and crossing them could mean serious trouble. Meanwhile, Evelyn remains eerily composed. She tilts her head slightly, listening intently to everything happening around her. Each insult, each movement, each sound registers in her razor-sharp memory. She doesn't need sight to understand what kind of men these are. Arrogant, cruel, dangerous, but also predictable. At one point, Razor leans in closer to taunt her again. You know, he sneers, you're pretty brave for someone who can't see. Too bad bravery won't save you tonight. His breath smells like alcohol, and his words slur together. Evelyn doesn't flinch. Instead, she tilts her head slightly, focusing on his voice. You should have stopped while you still could, she says, her tone colder than ice. The bikers exchange confused glances. What was this? Some kind of bluff? They've never met anyone like Evelyn before. Most people would be begging for mercy by now. But she's different. She's calm, collected, and completely unafraid. Razor narrows his eyes suspiciously. What did you just say? He demands. Evelyn doesn't answer right away. Instead, she reaches into her coat pocket and presses a small button on a device hidden inside. Somewhere far away, alarms begin to blare. The bikers freeze, suddenly realizing they're surrounded. But Evelyn doesn't reveal her secret yet. Instead, she lets the tension build. She knows exactly what she's doing. Every second counts, and every move matters. By staying calm and calculating, she's turning the tables on her attackers without them even realizing it. Even though the bikers are treating her badly, Evelyn doesn't lose her cool. She knows that panicking won't help her. Instead, she stays calm and focuses on what's happening around her. This isn't just bravery, it's strategy. Evelyn has spent years training herself to think clearly in tough situations. Now, those skills are coming in handy. As the bikers laugh and throw insults at her, Evelyn listens carefully. She hears every word they say, even if it seems like nonsense to them. For example, when Razor calls her helpless, she notices how his voice wavers slightly. Is he trying too hard to sound confident? Or is he worried deep down that she might surprise him? Evelyn also pays attention to their movements. When Spike dumps her groceries on the ground, she hears the apples rolling away and the bread landing in a puddle. She memorizes where everything falls so she can find it later if needed. When Tank kicks her cane, she hears it hit the wall and bounces back a little. That tells her exactly where it landed. These tiny details may seem unimportant now, but they could be useful soon. Most people wouldn't notice these things. But Evelyn isn't most people. Her blindness has taught her to rely on her other senses like hearing, smell, and touch in ways others don't. To her, the world isn't dark, it's full of sounds, textures, and smells that tell her stories. And right now, those stories are telling her everything she needs to know about the Iron Vipers. While the bikers keep mocking her, Evelyn starts piecing together clues. She remembers the smell of gun oil on Razor's jacket, a sign he might be carrying a weapon. She hears the jingle of keys in Spike's pocket, which means he probably owns one of the motorcycles parked nearby. She even notices how Rat keeps sneaking closer to her, as if he's looking for something valuable to steal. All of this information helps Evelyn form a plan. She doesn't rush into action yet, though. Instead, she waits patiently, letting the bikers underestimate her even more. The longer they think she's weak, the better chance she has of surprising them later. Just when it seems like things can't get worse, something happens that gives Evelyn a small advantage. As the bikers continue to harass her, one of them accidentally drops a key piece of evidence. It's not much, just a crumpled receipt, but it's enough to give Evelyn a clue about who these men really are. The receipt lands near Evelyn's feet, close enough for her to feel it with her shoe. Without drawing attention to herself, she bends down slowly and picks it up. The paper feels smooth and thin in her hands. She runs her fingers over the printed words, feeling the raised ink. Even though she can't read the text, she recognizes the shape of certain letters and numbers. This isn't the first time she's used her sense of touch to decode written information. What Evelyn discovers shocks her. The receipt belongs to a hardware store, and it lists items like locks, chains, and tools. These aren't ordinary supplies, they're the kind of things criminals use to break into places or smuggle illegal goods. Evelyn's mind races as she connects the dots. Could the Iron Vipers be involved in something bigger than just bullying innocent people? At the same time, Evelyn notices another important detail. One of the bikers mentions a name during their conversation, a name she recognizes from her past. Years ago, when she worked as a counterintelligence expert, she helped stop a group of arms smugglers. Their leader had gone by the nickname Viper. Could this gang be connected to that old case? These revelations excite Evelyn, but she doesn't let it show. She continues to act like a helpless victim, keeping her emotions hidden. Inside, however, she's already planning her next move. If the Iron Vipers are linked to the arms smuggling ring she dismantled years ago, then tonight isn't just personal, it's professional. And Evelyn never backs down from a mission. Now that Evelyn has gathered some valuable information, she decides it's time to fight back. But she doesn't do it in the way the bikers expect. Instead of yelling or fighting physically, she uses her intelligence and quick thinking to outsmart them. First, Evelyn presses a small button on a device hidden inside her coat pocket. This device sends a signal to local law enforcement, alerting them to her location. It's part of a safety system she set up after leaving her spy days behind. The police won't arrive immediately, but they're on their way. In the meantime, Evelyn needs to buy herself some time. To distract the bikers, Evelyn pretends to stumble forward, acting like she's lost her balance. Razor laughs and steps aside, thinking she's about to fall. But instead of collapsing, Evelyn reaches out and grabs his arm. Her grip is firm and unexpected, catching him off guard. "Let go of me!" Razor shouts, trying to pull away. But Evelyn holds on tight, using his body to steady herself. "You're making a big mistake," she whispers, her voice low and dangerous. Razor freezes, unsure of what to do next. He's used to scaring people, not being scared himself. For the first time, he realizes there's something different about this woman. She's not afraid of him, and that makes him nervous. While Razor struggles to free himself, Evelyn takes another step toward turning the tables. She raises her voice slightly, speaking loud enough for everyone to hear. "Do you know who I am?" she asks, her tone icy. The bikers exchange confused glances. They've never seen anyone stand up to them like this before. "I'm not just some blind woman," Evelyn continues. "I used to work for people who don't take kindly to bullies like you. And trust me, you don't want them coming after you." Her words send a chill through the group. Even though they don't fully understand what she means, they can tell she's serious. For the first time, they start to doubt themselves. Maybe they underestimated her. Maybe she's not as helpless as she looks. Evelyn doesn't give them time to recover. She lets go of Razor's arm and takes a step back, positioning herself closer to her cane. Using her foot, she nudges it until it's within reach. Then, with a swift motion, she bends down and grabs it. The bikers watch in silence, unsure of what she'll do next. With her cane back in hand, Evelyn taps it against the ground confidently. She's no longer the vulnerable woman they thought she was. She's strong, smart, and ready to face whatever comes her way. As Evelyn stands tall, the tension in the air becomes almost unbearable. The bikers are still outnumbered, but they're no longer in control. Something about Evelyn's demeanor has changed. She's no longer playing the role of a victim. Instead, she's taking charge, and the bikers don't know how to respond. Razor tries to regain his confidence. "You think you're so tough," he growls, stepping forward again. "Well, guess what? We're not scared of you or anyone else." Evelyn smiles faintly, her expression unreadable. "That's your biggest mistake," she replies. "Because sometimes, the quietest person in the room holds the most power. And those who judge by appearances? They're the ones who never see it coming. Her words hang in the air, leaving the bikers uneasy. They glance at each other, unsure of what to do next. Should they attack her? Run away? Call for backup? None of them have answers. Meanwhile, Evelyn remains calm. She knows the police are on their way, but she also knows she can't rely on them completely. If she wants to stop the Iron Vipers once and for all, she'll need to act quickly. But how far is she willing to go? And what secrets will come to light when the truth finally emerges? Before we find out, let's pause for a moment and reflect. Think about how Evelyn has handled herself so far. Despite being outnumbered and underestimated, she's managed to stay calm, gather information, and turn the tables on her attackers. She hasn't revealed her full strength yet, but when she does, it's going to change everything. Are you ready to see what happens next? Let's dive deeper into the story and uncover the truth about Evelyn Carter. The tension between Evelyn and the Iron Vipers reaches its peak. Razor and his gang are no longer laughing or mocking her. Instead, they stand frozen, unsure of what to do next. Evelyn's calm confidence has thrown them off balance. They've never met anyone like her before, someone who refuses to back down, even when outnumbered and seemingly defenseless. Evelyn taps her cane against the ground once more, the sound echoing in the quiet night air. She doesn't say anything right away. Instead, she lets the silence grow heavier, giving the bikers time to feel uneasy. Her silence speaks louder than any words could. It tells them she's not afraid, and that scares them more than anything else. Razor tries to act tough again. "You think you're smart, huh?" he sneers, stepping closer to Evelyn. "Well, let me tell you something. No one messes with the Iron Vipers and gets away with it." Evelyn tilts her head slightly, listening to his voice. She can hear the nervousness behind his bravado. He's trying to scare her, but it's not working. Instead of responding to his threat, she focuses on the sounds around her. In the distance, she hears the faint wail of police sirens growing louder. Help is on the way, but Evelyn isn't waiting for backup to arrive. She has her own plan. With a small smile, Evelyn replies, "Oh, I'm not just messing with you. I'm ending this." Her words send another chill through the group. None of them understand what she means, but they can tell she's serious. For the first time, they start to realize that maybe, just maybe, they've made a huge mistake by picking on her. Before the bikers can react, Evelyn pulls off her sunglasses. Even though she's blind, her piercing blue eyes seem to look straight through them. She holds their gaze, or at least appears to, and says, "Let me make one thing clear. I may not see the world like you do, but I see enough." Her voice is calm but firm, leaving no room for doubt. The bikers exchange confused glances. What does she mean? How can someone who's blind see anything? Evelyn doesn't give them time to ask questions. Instead, she starts listing details about each of them, proving she knows far more than they expected. "Razor," she begins, pointing directly at him without hesitation. "You're the leader of this little gang. You carry a knife in your left boot and a gun tucked into your jacket. Your breath smells like beer, and your hands shake when you're nervous." Razor's face turns pale. How does she know all this? He hasn't said or done anything to reveal those details, at least, not intentionally. But Evelyn has been paying attention since the moment they surrounded her. Every sound, smell, and movement has given her clues about who they are and what they're capable of. Next, she turns to Spike. "You're the one who dumped my groceries on the ground," she says, her tone icy. "Your keys jingle in your pocket every time you move. That tells me you own one of those motorcycles parked nearby. And judging by the smell of grease on your hands, you've been working on engines recently." Spike takes a step back, his confidence crumbling. He hadn't realized how much he was giving away just by standing there. Then Evelyn addresses Tank. "And you, the big guy who kicked my cane away. You think you're strong, but your footsteps are heavy and clumsy. You rely on brute force instead of brains. Am I right?" Tank clenches his fists, unsure of whether to attack or retreat. He's used to intimidating people with his size, but Evelyn's words cut deeper than any punch ever could. Finally, she looks toward Rat. "As for you," she says, her voice sharp, "you've been sneaking around me this whole time, looking for something valuable to steal. Did you really think I wouldn't notice?" Rat freezes, caught red-handed. He had hoped to slip away unnoticed, but Evelyn's keen senses have exposed him. By now, the bikers are completely shaken. They thought they were dealing with an easy target, but Evelyn has turned the tables on them. She's not just blind, she's brilliant. And she's not done yet. Once Evelyn has the bikers' full attention, she drops the biggest bombshell of all. "You might be wondering why I know so much about you," she says, her voice steady. "It's because I used to work for people who don't take kindly to scum like you." The bikers stare at her in shock. None of them understand what she means at first. But then Evelyn reveals a piece of information that changes everything. "Years ago, I helped dismantle an arms smuggling ring linked to a group called the Vipers." Ring any bells? Razor's eyes widen in disbelief. "Wait, you're that spy," he stammers. "The one who took down our old boss?" Evelyn nods slowly. "That's right. And if you're still using the name Vipers, then you're connected to the same operation. Congratulations, you've just led me straight to your hideout." Now the bikers are truly terrified. They've heard stories about Evelyn's past, but they never imagined they'd meet her in person. To them, she was just a legend, a ghost from their criminal history. Now she's standing right in front of them, ready to bring them down. But Evelyn isn't finished. She pulls out the crumpled receipt she found earlier and holds it up. "This tells me exactly what you've been up to. Tools, locks, chains, it's all part of your smuggling operation, isn't it? You thought you could stay hidden, but you made one fatal mistake. You underestimated me." The bikers glance at each other nervously. They know they're in deep trouble. If Evelyn has figured out their connection to the arms ring, then the authorities will soon follow. There's no escape now. Just as Evelyn finishes speaking, the distant sound of police sirens grows louder. Red and blue lights flash in the distance, signaling the arrival of law enforcement. The bikers panic, scrambling to get away. Some try to jump on their motorcycles, while others run toward the bar. But it's too late. Undercover agents emerge from the shadows, badges flashing. These aren't ordinary cops, they're part of a special task force trained to handle cases like this. They surround the Iron Vipers, cutting off all possible exits. One by one, the bikers are handcuffed and taken into custody. Razor struggles against the officers holding him, shouting insults and threats. But no one listens. His days of bullying innocent people are over. As he's dragged away, he glares at Evelyn. "This isn't over," he yells. "You'll regret crossing us." Evelyn doesn't respond. She simply watches as the bikers are loaded into police cars. Her expression remains calm and resolute. She knows better than anyone that justice always wins in the end. Once the area is cleared, one of the agents approaches Evelyn. "Thank you for your help," he says respectfully. "We've been tracking these guys for months. You saved us a lot of time tonight." Evelyn smiles faintly. "Just doing my part," she replies. Then, without another word, she picks up her cane and walks away. The crowd that had gathered during the confrontation applauds softly, amazed by what they've witnessed. Evelyn may be blind, but she's proven herself to be stronger and smarter than anyone could have imagined. As Evelyn disappears into the night, the scene feels surreal. Moments ago, She was an ordinary woman walking home from the grocery store. Now, she's revealed herself to be a hero, a former counterintelligence expert who stopped a dangerous gang in its tracks. For the bystanders who watched the entire ordeal, the lesson is clear: never judge someone based on appearances. Evelyn looked vulnerable, but she was anything but. Her strength came not from physical power but from intelligence, resilience, and courage. Even the Iron Vipers learned a valuable lesson, though it came at a cost. Their arrogance blinded them to the truth. They assumed Evelyn was weak because she couldn't see, but in reality, she saw far more than they ever could. By underestimating her, they sealed their own fate. As the police cars drive away and the street returns to normal, the crowd slowly disperses. But the memory of what happened will linger for a long time. Evelyn Carter may have slipped back into obscurity, but her actions have left an indelible mark on everyone who witnessed them. Are you ready to see how this story concludes? Let's move on to the resolution and discover what happens after justice is served. The Iron Vipers are no longer free to roam the streets. Thanks to Evelyn's quick thinking and bravery, they've been caught red-handed. As the police load them into cars, the bikers look defeated. Their tough guy attitudes have disappeared, replaced by fear and regret. They never expected to lose, not to someone like Evelyn. Razor, their leader, sits in the back seat of a police car, glaring out the window. His leather jacket, once a symbol of his power, now feels heavy and suffocating. He can't stop thinking about Evelyn's words: sometimes, the quietest person in the room holds the most power. Those words haunt him because he knows they're true. He judged her based on her blindness, assuming she was weak. But she turned out to be stronger than anyone he'd ever met. Spike, Tank, and Rat sit in separate cars, each lost in their own thoughts. Spike keeps replaying the moment Evelyn listed every detail about him: the jingling keys, the grease-stained hands. How did she know all that? It's like she could see right through him. Tank feels embarrassed for underestimating her strength. He thought his size made him untouchable, but Evelyn proved him wrong. And Rat? He's furious at himself for getting caught sneaking around. He should have known better than to mess with someone so observant. As the police cars drive away, the bikers realize their days of causing trouble are over. They'll face serious charges for their crimes: harassment, theft, smuggling, and more. This time, there's no escape. Justice has finally caught up with them. Back on the street, life slowly returns to normal. The crowd that gathered during the confrontation begins to disperse, but the memory of what happened lingers. People talk quietly among themselves, sharing their thoughts about Evelyn's incredible actions. One woman says, "I can't believe she stood up to those bikers like that. She didn't even flinch." Another man nods in agreement. "And did you hear how much she knew about them? It was like she had superpowers." A young boy tugs on his mother's sleeve. "Mom, do you think she's a superhero?" he asks excitedly. His mom smiles and replies, "Maybe not a superhero, but definitely someone we should admire. She showed us that being brave isn't about having muscles, it's about having heart." Even the shopkeepers who watched from their windows feel inspired. One of them steps outside and picks up Evelyn's groceries, which were scattered during the chaos. He carefully gathers the apples, bread, and other items, placing them back into her bag. When Evelyn returns later to retrieve her belongings, she finds everything neatly packed and waiting for her. "Thank you," she says softly, offering the shopkeeper a small smile. He nods respectfully. "No, thank you," he replies. "You reminded us all what real courage looks like." News of Evelyn's heroics spreads quickly throughout the neighborhood. By morning, everyone knows her name, or at least, they know her story. Some people call her the blind spy, while others refer to her as the woman who took down the Iron Vipers. Whatever they call her, one thing is clear: Evelyn has earned their respect. For years, the Iron Vipers terrorized the community, making people afraid to speak out or stand up for themselves. But now, thanks to Evelyn, things are different. Her actions have shown everyone that bullies can be stopped and that standing up to them doesn't require physical strength. All it takes is courage, intelligence, and determination. While the rest of the neighborhood celebrates Evelyn's victory, she remains humble. To her, this wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about doing the right thing even when it was hard. As she walks home with her groceries, she reflects on the events of the night. She thinks about how the bikers underestimated her, treating her like an easy target. At first, their insults stung, but she didn't let them break her spirit. Instead, she used their arrogance against them, turning their assumptions into her advantage. Now, they're behind bars, and she's safe. Evelyn also reflects on her past. For years, she avoided using her skills after leaving her job as a counterintelligence expert. She wanted peace and quiet, hoping to leave danger behind. But tonight reminded her that some battles are worth fighting. Stopping the Iron Vipers wasn't just about protecting herself, it was about protecting others too. If she hadn't acted, who knows what kind of harm those bikers might have caused. When Evelyn reaches her apartment, she sets her groceries on the counter and takes off her coat. She doesn't feel proud or heroic. Instead, she feels relieved. Relieved that justice was served. Relieved that the neighborhood is safer now. And relieved that she stayed true to herself, even in the face of danger. Later that evening, Evelyn receives a phone call from one of the agents who helped arrest the Iron Vipers. "We found their hideout," he tells her. "Thanks to your tip, we uncovered enough evidence to shut down their entire operation. You've done the city a huge favor." Evelyn listens quietly, nodding even though the agent can't see her. "I'm glad I could help," she says simply. Then, without waiting for a response, she hangs up the phone. She doesn't need praise or gratitude. Knowing she made a difference is reward enough. The next day, Evelyn notices a change in how people treat her. Neighbors who once ignored her now greet her warmly. Shopkeepers offer her discounts and go out of their way to assist her. Even strangers smile at her as she passes by. It's clear that word of her bravery has reached everyone. At first, Evelyn feels uncomfortable with all the attention. She's always preferred staying in the background, blending into the crowd. But as the days pass, she realizes something important: her actions have given people hope. They've shown them that kindness and courage can overcome cruelty and fear. One afternoon, a group of children approaches Evelyn as she sits on a park bench. "Are you really a spy?" one of them asks shyly. Evelyn chuckles softly. "Not anymore," she replies. "But I used to be." The kid's eyes widen with excitement. "That's so cool," another child exclaims. "Can you teach us how to be brave like you?" Evelyn thinks for a moment before answering. "Bravery isn't about being fearless," she explains. "It's about doing the right thing, even when you're scared. Remember that, and you'll be braver than you think." The children nod eagerly, hanging on to her every word. For Evelyn, this moment is special. She may not have set out to inspire anyone, but seeing these kids look up to her fills her with warmth. Maybe her actions will encourage them to stand up for themselves and for others when the time comes. Life goes on for Evelyn, but it's different now. She still walks the same streets, shops at the same stores, and lives in the same apartment. Yet, there's a newfound sense of peace in her routine. The Iron Vipers are gone, and the neighborhood feels safer than ever. Evelyn knows she'll never forget what happened that night. It reminded her of her strength and of the impact one person can have. Whether she's helping catch criminals or simply lending a hand to a neighbor, she understands that every action matters. As she continues her daily life, Evelyn carries a quiet confidence. She's no longer just the blind woman to those around her. She's Evelyn Carter, a former counterintelligence expert, a hero, and a role model. And though she prefers to stay humble, she knows her story will live on in the hearts of those she touched. Justice has been served, and Evelyn has reclaimed her power. But more importantly, she's reminded everyone including herself that true strength comes from within. Are you ready to hear the final thoughts on this incredible journey? Let's wrap up the story with a reflective and inspiring closing. Evelyn's story is more than just an exciting tale of bravery and justice. It's a reminder of important lessons we can all learn and carry with us in our own lives. Let's take a moment to reflect on some of those lessons. First, Evelyn taught us that appearances can be deceiving. When people saw her walking down the street with her white cane, they assumed she was weak or helpless. But Evelyn proved that strength doesn't come from how you look, it comes from who you are inside. She may not have been able to see, but she noticed things others missed. Her sharp mind, quick thinking, and courage made her unstoppable. Second, Evelyn showed us the importance of standing up for what's right even when it's hard. Facing the Iron Vipers wasn't easy. They were bigger, louder, and meaner than her. But Evelyn didn't let fear stop her. Instead, she used her intelligence and determination to turn the tables on them. By doing so, she reminded us that even one person can make a big difference. Finally, Evelyn's actions inspired others to believe in themselves. After watching her stand up to the bikers, the people in her neighborhood felt braver too. They realized that bullies only win when good people stay silent. But when someone steps forward and says enough, amazing things can happen. These lessons aren't just for Evelyn, they're for all of us. Whether we're dealing with bullies, facing challenges, or trying to help others, we can draw inspiration from her example. True strength isn't about being the loudest or strongest person in the room. It's about having heart, staying calm under pressure, and doing the right thing, no matter what. One of the most powerful messages from Evelyn's story is the idea of resilience. Resilience means bouncing back from tough situations and keeping going, even when life gets hard. Evelyn faced many challenges throughout her life, but she never gave up. Instead, she found ways to adapt and grow stronger. When Evelyn lost her sight, she could have let it break her spirit. Many people might have given up, thinking their best days were behind them. But Evelyn chose a different path. She embraced her new reality and learned to use her other senses like hearing, touch, and smell in incredible ways. Over time, she discovered that losing her sight actually made her sharper in some ways. She paid closer attention to details that others overlooked, which helped her succeed as both a spy and a hero. Resilience also played a role in how Evelyn handled the Iron Vipers. When they surrounded her and tried to intimidate her, she didn't panic or cry. Instead, she stayed calm and focused, using her training to outsmart them. Even though she was outnumbered, she refused to back down. Her resilience turned a scary situation into a victory not just for herself, but for everyone in her community. We can all practice resilience in our own lives. Maybe you faced a challenge at school, like struggling with math or reading. Or maybe you've dealt with something tougher, like being teased by classmates or feeling left out. Whatever the situation, remember that you're stronger than you think. Like Evelyn, you can find ways to overcome obstacles and keep moving forward. Here's a tip: whenever you feel stuck or discouraged, try breaking the problem into smaller pieces. For example, if math feels overwhelming, focus on one question at a time instead of the whole test. If someone is treating you unfairly, talk to a trusted adult or friend about it. And always remind yourself that tough times don't last forever. With patience and effort, you'll get through them and come out stronger on the other side. Another key theme in Evelyn's story is standing up against bullies. The Iron Vipers were classic bullies. They picked on someone weaker than them because they thought they could get away with it. But Evelyn proved that bullies only have power if we let them. When she stood her ground and fought back, using her brains, not her fists, she took away their control. Bullying happens everywhere, at school, online, and even in neighborhoods like Evelyn's. Sometimes, bullies tease people for how they look, act, or speak. Other times, they steal belongings, spread rumors, or physically hurt others. No matter what form it takes, bullying is wrong and it hurts everyone involved. If you've ever been bullied, you know how scary and lonely it can feel. You might wonder why the bully is targeting you or what you did to deserve it. The truth is, it's not your fault. Bullies often pick on others because they're unhappy or insecure themselves. They want to feel powerful, so they try to bring others down. The good news is that there are ways to handle bullying. First, tell a trusted adult like a parent, teacher, or counselor what's happening. They can help you figure out the best way to deal with the situation. Second, don't fight back physically unless you're in immediate danger. Instead, use your words to stand up for yourself. Say something like, "Stop bothering me," or "I don't deserve this." Speaking up shows the bully that you won't let them push you around. Finally, surround yourself with supportive friends and family members. Having people who care about you makes a huge difference. Together, you can create a team of allies who will stand with you against bullies. Evelyn's story reminds us that standing up to bullies isn't just about protecting ourselves, it's about protecting others too. By stopping the Iron Vipers, she made her neighborhood safer for everyone. In the same way, when we stand up to bullies in our own lives, we send a message that kindness and respect matter more than cruelty and fear. Evelyn may not wear a cape or have superpowers, but she's still a hero. Heroes aren't just characters in movies or books, they're real people who do extraordinary things in everyday life. Sometimes, heroes save lives during emergencies. Other times, they inspire others through acts of kindness, courage, or leadership. Think about the people in your life who've made a positive impact. Maybe it's a teacher who encouraged you to try your best. Or a friend who stood by you during a tough time. Or a family member who worked hard to provide for you. These individuals may not call themselves heroes, but their actions make them heroic. Evelyn became a hero because she cared about making the world a better place. She didn't set out to become famous or celebrated. All she wanted was to protect herself and her community from harm. Yet, her bravery inspired countless others to believe in themselves and stand up for what's right. You don't have to take down a gang of bikers to be a hero. Small acts of kindness and courage count too. Helping a classmate understand a difficult lesson, picking up trash in your neighborhood, or simply smiling at someone having a bad day, all of these actions make the world brighter. Remember, being a hero isn't about doing something huge. It's about making a difference, no matter how small. As we wrap up Evelyn's story, let's leave you with one final thought: true power lies within each of us. It doesn't matter how old you are, how big or small you are, or whether you can see, hear, or walk. What matters is the strength of your character, the values you hold, the choices you make, and the way you treat others. Evelyn proved that anyone can be a force for good, no matter their circumstances. She faced danger with grace, solved problems with intelligence, and inspired others with her courage. Her story reminds us that we're capable of far more than we often realize. So, the next time you meet someone new or encounter someone different, remember Evelyn's journey. Look beyond appearances and assumptions. Celebrate diversity, embrace challenges, and never underestimate the quiet strength of those around you. And most importantly, always strive to be the kind of person who makes the world a little better. Because sometimes, the smallest actions create the biggest ripples. Thank you for joining us on this unforgettable adventure. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and keep shining your light.